So why did you start a startup?
This problem needed to be solved yesterday.
So this is interesting.
In terms of starting a startup, it's about the challenges that come with it, problem solving. I think I'm addicted. I'm also addicted to probably the pain that comes with it, because I believe that when there's no pain, there's no gain.
I walk through the streets of Vietnam and I see things and I think to myself, okay, this could be done and this could be a business. And there are a lot of ideas in my head.
This is going to sound ridiculous. It sounded like the most fun.
I was doing a lot of different types of sort of digital work in my corporate jobs previously, but then I really wanted to do something where you really, really feel like you're making a big difference and a big impact to a problem in the real world, get your hands dirtier, I suppose. For me, that was seeing that education in Indonesia really, really lacked solutions for areas that didn't have internet. I felt like what Kipin was doing, so I joined as a co-founder, but I felt like what Kipin was doing was very different from the solutions I saw in the market. Also, I think sometimes the question you have to ask is like, what's the alternative? You know, like, why not now? And for me, I didn't have a good enough answer. I felt the timing was right, and this problem needed to be solved yesterday.
I wanted to start doing something that empowers a lot of people, because while COVID hit us back in 2018, so what we have seen is like a lot of brain runners lost their job immediately. And that was a triggering moment for me. Like, can I really do something that can help a lot of people survive and find work without displacing them from their roots? So that's one of the key elements that I started figuring out what you can do that can actually empower a lot of people.
Actually, always dream about building a high impact company that can bring new value to the customer from both sides.
Matida is my second startup, and I usually start companies based on entrepreneurial alertness, which is it's a term that I learned during my MBA when working for startups, so that I see opportunities and I have a framework in my head how to evaluate opportunities. So I was talking to my co-founder Ling, whose wife was pregnant at that time, and my daughter is 3, and so we've been discussing how crazy this journey of parenthood is and how little support we could find, and then talking about Vietnam and all the opportunity here, and we just decided, okay, this is a great place and this is a great time, so we are going to do this. We're going to help parents in Vietnam to navigate this journey better.
We saw that there were a lot of AI companies being built overseas, and what they needed was labeled or structured data. So we found the opportunity and we thought, let's go into that market space and let's try to build something there.
For me, I felt like I was stagnating at my corporate job. I didn't spend that long actually graduating out of university and working in a corporate. It was only maybe 2 years in, and I felt like I wasn't being challenged enough, and I didn't see my career trajectory turn into something that was very fulfilling and challenging. I happened to have a lot of founder friends, and I really loved how quickly they were growing, the kind of problems they were solving, and the rooms that they had access to because of the nature of their work. And I just felt like I was ready for that leap to push myself, and that was mainly the reason why I wanted to start building something. The other reason was also for that satisfaction of being close to your end customer. I realized pretty quickly that with a larger company, you're always handling one part of a problem, and you may not be able to have the satisfaction of seeing a product go from start to finish in terms of, designing it and figuring out what you want to build, to then speaking with customers, watching them use it, market it, and grow it. And I think that entire journey is something that I was looking for from a career perspective.
Even when you did your 9 to 5 kind of job, I was always not super happy, just following the status quo. Especially started out in corporate and then went into a more tech kind of company. When I met Jatin, it was kind of the first week that I worked with him, and then he gave me this pitch about starting a whole other project. You know what? Let's give it a go. Even though I was supposed to work with him at Pay for the next few years, I was okay, let's do this side project and see where it goes. own what I build, own what I work for. It seemed natural. And when the opportunity comes, you take it.
Had internship with 4 or 5 companies, traditional companies here in Bangladesh. So Bangladesh is very much an outsourced country where people would open up a dev shop and do outsourcing work for other countries. So I worked few in the companies, and I figured out that, hey, look, the amount of work or I do in terms of technology or things that I like to do is something that would be very restrictive. I would not learn a lot. I would probably learn a lot about business, about building that sort of business, a dev shop business, but not about a product. So that the impact that we can have as a business in a country like Bangladesh, which is just growing, the digital transformation is yet to happen as a whole for a country. It's a lifetime opportunity doing something. And that intrigues me a lot.
So I've been a long-time serial entrepreneur. My dad was a long-time serial entrepreneur. So it was kind of in my blood to do this. In fact, I was kind of born into a scrappy hustler mindset. I see building a company as almost like a spiritual path. You will never grow faster. You'll never learn more about yourself than to build a company. You have to overcome your limitations, your limiting beliefs, your fears, your doubts. And while you can go to school and learn some of the mechanics of how to make a good deck or how to make a financial forecast, you only learn in the real world through a nervous system experience when it's your neck on the line. Check your own gut. And I think that's a level of experience that I thought would be most beneficial for me in life, much more than even just any one individual company.
I've always been a startup person. I never liked the idea of working with a corporate, never liked being slow. Michelle and I decided to start our company because we have our own vision and we have our own expectation on what kind of company we want to build, the team culture that we want to set. And all these are not possible if we were to be working with someone else. So I think it's really having the freedom of shaping your vision into reality, moving fast and making decisions our own.
It just sounded like this grand adventure that you like would get to go on with this small group of people, and you're like against all odds, and like you're an underdog, and all of those things have always spoken to me, and everything that I've always been kind of like interested in doing have like sounded like that. And so I feel like there are times in your life where you deliberate a decision and you're like, oh, should I do this? Should I like not do this? And then I feel like there's some decisions in life where the decision gets made and then your brain kind of notifies you after the fact. And that's what it felt like with startups. It was like, I feel like I woke up one day and it was like, I had decided to do startups months ago and like, I just found out, right? And so it was so natural and kind of obvious to me as like, this is the thing that's going to be the fun thing to do.
What happened was I secured an internship and a couple of other job offers in my 3rd year going into my 4th year. So that was great. And then when COVID hit, I immediately knew that was probably not really good for me, because then there's some of these companies started sending emails to me saying, oh, sorry, we can't take you in anymore because we have to prioritize our own people and we can't take in any international students. And I basically lost all my job offers and I had nothing else anymore. And after I graduated, I was like, okay, I want to stay in the US, but I need a job in order to stay in the US. So I had to look for something immediately. I applied to every other job I can think of. I applied to masters, even though I had no plans of doing a master's degree. It was a very, very stressful time. It was physically, mentally, emotionally, just super draining. I felt like that was such a low. That was one of the lowest lows of my life, and I barely had any money in my bank account. So what I did was I sold my belongings and I booked a one-way ticket to Silicon Valley. So I went from San Diego to Silicon Valley, one-way trip. Didn't really know what I was going to do there, but I was like, okay, you know what? This is where a lot of crazy things happen. This is where great things happen. So maybe I can find something there. And I think that was kind of naive of me to think like that, because it was also very tough when I got there. I was basically in an Airbnb, still emotionally, mentally very drained, didn't want to do anything. Every morning was a drag and it was so difficult to get out of bed, basically. I remember thinking to myself for many, many days, all I wanted at that time was a nice, comforting homemade meal to make me feel better. That would have made the world a difference to me. So I just taught myself how to cook. in that Airbnb, and I started making meals for myself, started making all my favorite Malaysian dishes, nasi lemak, chicken rice, you name it. I tried everything, and I was actually pretty decent. So what happened was I started cooking for my boyfriend, my friends, my boyfriend's parents, and from there, I was like, okay, this could actually be something bigger than myself. What if there were other people in the neighborhood who can also do the same thing and they could sell to their local communities?
I did not start a startup. I started a product. I started it for myself. I started it for my kid. I started it with my husband. And basically what happened is that we were quite proud about what we made, and we showed it to people, to friends, and we discovered that like a lot of them actually really enjoyed using it. So because we were from a business background, we decided to turn this into a company and monetize it.
So from an early age, I've always been trying to help my friends buy and sell items. So that entrepreneurship is really deep rooted inside of me. So I started my first startup at the age of 20 when I was still in university. I was able to exit that business 4 years later, which then saw me move to Singapore and work with a number of corporates. But 6 years ago, I started to create as I like to call it, a side hustle, which quite quickly started to produce strong passive income on a monthly basis, which my friends wanted to co-invest in. So that was kind of the early stages of the business where I was thinking, hey, is there a much larger problem that needed to be solved? So that kind of planted the seed of what GoRo is today. So it's basically a personal problem that I solved, that I then solved for my friends and family, and now I'm solving it for millions of Indonesians.
I actually remember I went through a period where I was very confused why everybody didn't start a startup. I was like, this is clearly the best thing to do. Why aren't all of you starting companies?